We feared many things about the American Sherman tank. At first, it was not its armor or its gun, both of which seemed weaker than our Panzers. We mocked it as a rolling coffin, an inferior machine that only survived through numbers. But what we never understood, what many of us did not realize until it was too late, was that the Sherman's true weapon was not its gun, nor its armor, but its voice. Its radios turned an ordinary tank into a force we could never match. On the Eastern Front, we had learned the chaos of war. Orders sent by courier arrived too late. Flags waved from turrets were missed in the smoke. Even our best panzers, armed with powerful guns, often fought blind, cut off from each other in forests, villages, and fields. A tank alone is vulnerable. A tank without communication is doomed. We did not see this clearly until the Shermans came, and with them, a web of voices that changed the battlefield. I remember Normandy in the summer of 1944. Our units faced endless streams of Shermans pouring from the beaches into the hedgerows. At first, we thought their weakness would be our advantage. Our Panthers and Tigers outgunned them easily. A single shot could ignite a Sherman, its turret bursting in flame. Yet every time we destroyed one, more appeared, not blindly, but in coordination. Their movements were fluid, their attacks precise. It was as if they were one body, many tanks acting as a single organism. We did not know then that every Sherman carried a radio, not just the commander's vehicle. Every tank, every crew, every platoon was connected. Orders flew instantly across miles. Enemy on the left. Advance on the right. Hold fire. Friendly ahead. These voices turned the battlefield into a network where no tank was ever truly alone. When one Sherman fell, others already moved to fill the gap. When a German ambush struck, a single warning broadcast across frequencies turned disaster into counterattack. For us, communication was clumsy. Many of our tanks had no radios or sets so weak they barely carried a kilometer. Orders came too late. Ambushes worked because no one could call for help. I saw more than one engagement where our superior guns destroyed a handful of Shermans, only to be overrun moments later by coordinated fire from reinforcements summoned instantly by radio. It was like fighting not a machine, but a hive. One battle near Saint-Lô stays in my memory. We had hidden Panthers along a hedgerow, waiting for the enemy. When the Shermans advanced, we opened fire, destroying 3 in seconds. The battlefield lit with flames. We cheered, until the survivors pulled back in perfect order, none panicking, none scattering. Within minutes, artillery struck our position with uncanny accuracy. Then more Shermans advanced, circling us, cutting off escape. We realized then that the destroyed tanks had already called for support before they died. Their voices lingered even as their hulls burned. We were fighting not tanks, but radios that bound them into one unbreakable force. The effect on morale was devastating. Our commanders told us the Sherman was weak, that we should mock it. But on the ground, it was different. Its weakness mattered little when multiplied by communication. 10 Shermans could fight like 20. 100 could feel like 1,000. It was not their guns that crushed us. It was their unity. Later, in captivity, I learned the truth. The Americans had invested in radios long before the war, embedding them into doctrine, into training, into every machine. Their factories produced them as endlessly as rifles. For them, it was ordinary. For us, it was extraordinary. We thought of tanks as individuals. They thought of them as voices in a choir. That difference shattered us. In the end, the Sherman was not a coffin. It was a conductor. Its radios orchestrated the destruction of the Reich. And for those of us who survived its fire, the memory is clear. We did not lose to steel alone. We lost to sound, to words carried on airwaves, to the invisible power of communication that turned defeat into inevitability. The more we fought the Shermans, the more their secret revealed itself. At first, we still clung to our arrogance. We called them Tommy Cookers, easy prey for the big guns of our Panthers and Tigers. We laughed when one burst into flames after a single hit. But slowly the laughter faded. For every Sherman destroyed, more arrived in perfect coordination, as if summoned by unseen hands. We realized we were not fighting individual machines. We were fighting a network. One engagement near Falaise showed it brutally. Our company set up an ambush along a narrow road. Panthers lay concealed, their cannons trained on the bend. When the first Shermans appeared, we fired. The lead tank exploded, blocking the path. Another burst into flames. Yet even as we destroyed them, the rest pulled back in organized fashion, laying smoke, calling for support. Within minutes, artillery rained down on us, so precise it felt as though they had seen our positions with their own eyes. More Shermans swept around the flanks, guided by radio reports. Our ambush became a trap for ourselves. By nightfall, half our force was gone, and the road belonged to the Americans. We whispered about it afterward. How had they reacted so quickly? How had they known exactly where to strike? The answer came slowly to us. Radios. Not one or two per battalion, but one in every tank. Even as one burned, its final message guided the others. That invisible thread tied them together, unbroken even by death. The contrast with our own machines was humiliating. Many of our panzers carried no radios at all. When they did, the sets were fragile, short-ranged, and often jammed. Messages were delayed, garbled, or lost entirely. Orders travelled by runner or flare, too slow for modern war. I saw men die in confusion, unable to hear the warning already known to their comrades. In battle, seconds mean survival. We lost those seconds again and again. At Mortain, our armoured push faltered not because of numbers alone, but because the Shermans could adapt instantly. When we struck one flank, they shifted reserves within minutes. When our infantry tried to exploit a gap, the Shermans closed it as though they had been waiting. It was not luck. It was voices crackling over radios, knitting them into a living shield. We never understood the scale until too late. Our superiors tried to dismiss it. They told us the Sherman was still inferior, that its gun could not penetrate our armour, that courage and skill would always prevail. But we saw the truth. It did not matter if one Sherman lost to one Panther. It mattered that 5 Shermans could fight like 10 because their radios made them one. That truth spread despair more deeply than any shell. The humiliation deepened when prisoners told us how ordinary it was for Americans. For them, radios were not luxury. They were standard, as essential as fuel or ammunition. In Germany, only commanders carried sets. For America, every tank, every vehicle, every platoon was connected. It was like fighting men with extra eyes, extra ears, extra minds. One night, exhausted after retreat, I lay in a ruined barn listening to comrades argue. "They are not better soldiers," one insisted. "It is their machines." Another shook his head. "No, it is their voices. They fight as one, while we fight as many." That silence afterward was heavier than any bomb. We all knew he was right. By autumn, the fear of Sherman radios haunted us more than their guns. Whenever we destroyed one, we asked ourselves what message it had already sent. Was artillery on its way? Were more tanks circling us? That doubt hollowed us out, turning every skirmish into dread. And the Americans broke through the Siegfried line. It was the radios that carried them forward. We could not outmaneuver what we could not outcommunicate, and their waves of armor moved with precision we could never match, flowing like water through cracks we could not seal. It was not just defeat, it was revelation. In captivity, I finally saw their radios up close. Compact, reliable, built in numbers we could not imagine. They were as common as rifles, treated as nothing special. For us, they would have been treasure. For them, they were ordinary. That difference, more than any gun or tank, won the war. Even now, I can still hear it, the invisible chatter that bound their Shermans together. We thought we fought machines of steel. In truth, we fought voices carried on airwaves, stronger than armor, deadlier than guns. By the winter of 1944, the secret no longer felt like rumor. We knew. We had seen it too many times to deny. The Sherman's real strength was not its gun or its armor. It was the voice hidden inside its hull, the radio that gave it eyes and ears beyond anything we possessed. We learned this truth in blood, in fields where ambushes failed, in villages where reinforcements arrived before we could exploit success, in forests where artillery answered every move as if guided by invisible hands. I remember a battle near Aachen, one of our last desperate defences before the Reich itself lay open. We had dug in among the ruins, our Panthers waiting at crossroads. When the Shermans advanced, we struck hard, destroying several in minutes. Flames lit the streets, smoke choked the air. For a moment we felt triumph. But before the smoke cleared, their artillery answered, precise and merciless. More Shermans arrived, not blindly, but coordinated, flanking us from alleys we thought secure. We were overwhelmed. Later, prisoners told us the first Shermans had radioed our positions before they died. Even in death they had spoken, and their voices had killed us. The despair grew unbearable. Our commanders urged courage, but courage could not bridge silence. We fought as scattered men. They fought as one machine. No order we gave could travel as fast as their chatter. No surprise we planned could last longer than the seconds it took for one Sherman to press its transmitter. We realized then that we were fighting not an army of tanks, but a single organism stretched across miles, bound by invisible cords of sound. When the Americans crossed the Rhine, their unity was unstoppable. Columns of Shermans flowed like rivers, adjusting instantly to obstacles, supporting one another with perfect timing. We, starved of fuel and radios, could only watch as our vaunted armor withered. The myth of the Panzer ace meant nothing against enemies who fought as a collective mind. After surrender, in captivity, I finally understood the scale. American officers explained that radios had been standard since before the war, mass-produced in factories as casually as boots or helmets. I saw stacks of them in depots, treated as nothing special. For us, such abundance was unimaginable. We had built powerful guns, thick armor, but we had neglected the simplest weapon, communication. That neglect had cost us the war. Years later, when I told my children of the battles, I did not only speak of tanks destroyed or comrades lost. I told them of radios. I told them how we mocked the Sherman, how we called it weak, only to discover it was strong in ways we had never considered. I told them that sometimes war is not won by strength alone, but by unity, and unity requires a voice. Even now, as an old man, I can still hear the static crackle of captured radios in Allied camps, voices passing orders, calm and steady. To us, that sound was defeat itself, the sound of an enemy who had mastered the invisible weapon. The Sherman's true gun was not its cannon, it was its ability to speak. And in those words, carried across the battlefield, we heard the end of the Reich.